Recording in progress.
There will now be a moment of silence prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. Honorable members, we take this opportunity and welcome our Deputy President, Honorable Paul Mashatile, as well as the officials he is here with today. And we also want to welcome the Premier of Limpopo, who has joined on a virtual platform, as well as the Speaker of Limpopo, the Deputy Speaker of Limpopo, and the Chief Whip. In Mpumalanga, we are also joined by the Deputy Speaker of Mpumalanga, and of course, all other special delegates that are in the virtual platform. You are welcome. And more than anything else, I also welcome and greet the permanent delegates to the NCOP who are with us here today and those that have joined in virtually. I would also like to remind you, delegates, that Rule 103 shall apply in this sitting. In accordance again with the Council Rule 229, Sub-Rule 1, there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. We shall now proceed to the next order of the day, honorable members, which is the questions, the oral reply by the Deputy President. But before we do that, once again, honorable delegates, I want to remind you in terms of Rule 229 of the Council that the time reply by the Deputy President to the questions is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. And a member who has asked the initial question would be the first one who will be afforded an opportunity to make a supplementary question, if any. The time, therefore, for asking that supplementary question would be 2 minutes that would be allocated to the member, and the time allocated to the Deputy President for responding to that supplementary question would be 4 minutes. Also to indicate that those supplementary questions must also emanate from the initial question that has been asked. I'll now call up on the Deputy President to respond to question number 7 that has been asked by Honorable Muimang. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Muimang, your question opens wounds of pain. You will agree with me that there is no suffering like losing a child. As government, we condemn in the strongest terms the irresponsible acts that have led to the loss of lives due to food contamination cases affecting mainly children in recent weeks. In response to this, President Cyril Ramaphosa outlined measures to address this challenge. The measures include, among others, that all spaza shops and food handling facilities be registered by municipalities within 21 days. This will go a long way towards enforcing legal status of the spaza shops that are pivotal for township economies. We have a duty not only to provide a legal framework, but to also mainstream this into a broader economy. The Department of Small Business Development is implementing measures to support small businesses to adhere to health and safety regulations. This includes offering grants and loans to improve business infrastructure, customizing training programs for food handling, hygiene and safety standards, and training shop owners to verify product authenticity through serial numbers and packaging. In addition, the Minister of Small Business Development has established a task force to coordinate and align programs for the township economy. The task force will ensure the eradication of counterfeit goods and developing new initiatives to support township and rural enterprises and SMEs. Equally, a joint fund of 500 million rands to support township and rural businesses has been established by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. The funding will be used for business refurbishment and non-financial support such as technical skills, regulatory compliance, and capacity building. The Department of Health is part of joint operations that are being conducted throughout the country as a monitoring mechanism, compliance of suppliers. Any premises found to be non-compliant are closed down, and illicit products found are confiscated. Honorable Chairperson, in the short term, we will establish provincial inspection teams, increase investment in the awareness campaigns, product authentication, supply vetting, and reporting mechanisms. While in the medium term, we'll improve supply chain visibility and monitoring to prevent counterfeit goods from entering the value chain and foster relationship with reputable suppliers to ensure genuine products. In the long term, government will review and strengthen laws such as the Business Act and the Business Licensing Bill to control business operations that govern counterfeiting and increase penalties for offenders. Furthermore, we are tackling foodborne incidences and unregistered spaza shop through net joins, which is a multi-sectoral intervention plan. The plan includes training spaza shop owners on food trading legislation, registration processes, and sourcing safe products from health-certified suppliers. Most importantly, we urge local communities to report suspicious activities and promote awareness to environmental health officers in their local municipalities. I call upon communities to refrain from illegal registration of spaza shops. We all have a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of our communities, and in particular, our children. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President, for such a comprehensive response to this emotionally touching subject. We will now go to Honorable Muimang to ask a follow-up question. Over to you, Chief.
Ke go tlotlile modulasetulo wa ntlo ya bosetšhaba ya kgala di province. Ke bua gape ke tse tlotlo ya ka e tona ke lebise go motlatsa president wa naga le maloko a ntlo ena, both permanent and special delegates le baagi ba naga rona. Allow me to indeed express my profound appreciation to the response given by the Deputy President as it is an illustration of the ANC-led government's decisive intervention in the spaza shop and food handling business to ensure stricter regulations. The question that I want to pose, Deputy President, as a follow-up is whether in addition to the areas of intervention that we have highlighted, are there opportunity for us to strengthen the current existing legislation that governs spaza shops while also identifying the value chain of the spaza shop and food handling business in the township to build viable food production, township and rural industries that will not only stop the backdoor production and the supply of dangerous food products. I thank you, Deputy President. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Over to you, DP.
Ke a leboga, Honorable Moimang, for that follow-up question. As I said earlier, the first thing that we are doing is to register all these businesses, not only spaza shops, but businesses that are operating in our communities. The Business Act and the Business Licensing Bill will help to control this operation, particularly to ensure that there are no counterfeiting goods and goods that are not required or goods that are not required to be sold to our people. One of the things that Honorable Moimang, we think we should do, and we are already engaging with municipalities, is to strengthen bylaws, because most of these things are managed through the enforcement of bylaws. We have noticed that in many of these communities, bylaws were not really being enforced. So we want to ensure that all the municipalities use these laws and ensure that there is enforcement. As I said earlier as well, that we will bring in inspectors. Members will recall, honorable members will recall that in the past, there were health inspectors that go throughout our communities to check food that is being sold in shops. We need to revive that initiative, and already that is taking place. We do think that if we do that, we will have sufficient measures on the ground to be able to cap this activity, because we'll know who owns what shop, what are they selling there, and more importantly, to ensure that those who transgress, we enforce the law. There must be stringent penalties to ensure that we can protect people in our communities. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The next question is from Honorable Badenhorst.
Deputy President, given the challenges associated with the 21-day registration period for spaza shops, one can only just imagine how many spaza shops do we have and how many inspectors are available. So that being said, including the risk of financial losses and closures for these small business owners, how does the government plan to balance the urgent need for public health and safety with the economic realities faced by these informal traders? So is there a strategy to provide, by way of extension of the registration period, some sort of leeway to assist the spaza shops? Because one can only imagine that 21 days, if we don't know how many spaza shops there are and we don't have enough inspectors, would probably not be enough. And then should there not be a continuous registration process as we go along? Thank you.
Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Badenhorst. We have started with this process, and indeed there are many who have been skeptical whether 21 days will be enough. The good news is that we do see a lot of progress that is happening. Spaza shops are very important because They provide close to 40% of our foodstuffs in our communities. So indeed, we need to ensure that they are protected. We need to ensure that they operate legally, and more importantly, that they sell quality goods that are properly registered. Now, we will have to assess as we go on, as government. It's good that people are opening up. The only worry we have is that there are those who are registering this spaza shop for illegal foreigners. We need to cap that. We don't have a problem if someone wants to be a landlord and you want to hire your premises to others, but please don't register your shop so that it's operated by illegal foreigners. But we will, Honorable Badenhorst, assess where we are so that if we are not able to complete this task, we see how we can review the days going forward. But I think it's important that everybody must know that within the 21 days, we want to have registered all this shop. There are quite many, as you say. So we're giving ourselves here quite a challenging task to be able to find them where they are, because honorable members will know that these days in South Africa, even if you go to the rural areas, you find spaza shops everywhere. So your point is taken that it may be a big challenge to reach everybody within 21 days. But the president has put this, and we are pushing for it and making sure that we achieve this task. Obviously, if we are not able to complete the task, we won't give up. We'll have to look at what to do next. Because in an ongoing way, there has to continue to be registration of all businesses, not just spaza shop. We need to know who's operating a business and for what, and what are they selling, etc., etc. So this is a very serious task, but we will try and do our best within this 21 days. Thank you, Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Deputy President. We're now moving to the next follow-up question, which is asked by Honorable Siwisa of EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, the issue of food poisoning is not only experienced in spaza shops, but also in big brand names like SuperSpar. With the recent news that has come to light at SuperSpar Richards Bay in Times Square Mall, where expired food was found, which is of a great concern. And if we are going to focus on spaza shops and the poisonous food or food poisoning, then there is a great possibility that we are going to make routes for big brands like ShopRite and Pick and Pay to open mini supermarkets, which is going to close the only economic adventure for Black people. Is the monitoring only going to happen for scrupulous suppliers or in spaza shops, or is the monitoring also going to happen in big outlets like your SuperSpar, your Woolworths, your OK, and all those big brands? Thank you, President.
Thank you very much. Can you respond, Deputy President?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Indeed, I also have seen some of this information circulating that there could be goods that are not good for human consumption or have expired in well-established shops. So what we need to do, Honorable Suisa, you're quite right that we must not just focus on spaza shops. Well, we've started there, but going forward, the regulating authorities must make sure that all businesses don't sell counterfeit goods. All businesses don't sell expired food products. It doesn't matter whether you are a Checkers or a Woolworth or a Pick and Pay. That's why when you go to this shop, you'll find that on these goods, you'll find that they put dates to say this must be sold by this time and must be consumed by this time. But regulations must ensure that there is enforcement. And the way we can get it right is that there has to be a very strong inspectorate. And perhaps you need an inspectorate that doesn't just, come when there's a problem, but that just regularly just appear, take people by surprise and check what is happening. So I agree with you that for our people to be safe, the authorities must ensure that we broaden the scope, we broaden our operation to ensure that the focus does not just end with spaza shops. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The next follow-up question is from MKP, which will be asked by Honorable Mokoena.
Thank you, Chair, and good day, Honorable Deputy President. My question to you is, given the ambitious 21 days that you've set for yourself in conducting the study that you're conducting, we would like to know what strategies are in place, or a turnaround strategy. Is there a turnaround strategy in place to ensure that these running spaza shops are now transferred to abantu bethu endaweni zabo, so that they are able now to guard their community better? And also, is there an appetite from government to then capacitate them so that they run self-sufficient businesses that are regulated and that are concerned about health and regulation issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. The approach that we are taking is that we should register everybody. Obviously, we do want to see South Africans owning most of these businesses, the spaza shops. I said earlier when I responded that we have realized a tendency where some of our South Africans were seen to trying to register, but not for themselves to operate. They are registering for illegal immigrants. It's an illegal activity that the authorities must tackle that. If somebody is in South Africa legally, there is no reason for us to stop them from operating a business. There are rules that are set that if you are a foreigner, you come to South Africa, want to operate a business, there's a threshold of funds that you must prove to the authorities that you have to be able to run a business. So they must comply. But we would be happy to see many South Africans operate these businesses. And as I said, if they choose to be landlords, then they must do it legally, and they must do it with people who are legal in the country, who have the right to be here. Because being a landlord also it assists you to make money and to survive. it's a form of business, but everything must be within the law. So yes, we will promote that South Africans should run and own these businesses. And as we register, we do hope that we will find many South Africans who are keen to be registered to run these spaza shops. Thank you, Honorable Mkwena. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Deputy President. We are now moving to question 8, which has been asked by DA through Honorable Swart. I'm now handing over to you, Deputy President, to respond to the question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I welcome the question by Honorable Swart because economic growth remains our #1 priority. We have always appreciated the role of the private sector in the growth and development of our economy. In attracting investment and stimulating growth, during the 6th administration, government adopted reforms aimed at improving energy and logistical constraints, reducing barriers to private sector investments, addressing structural rigidities in the labor market, and also tackling crime and corruption. President Cyril Ramaphosa launched phase 2 of business and government partnership in October of this year. This partnership is aimed at supporting government efforts to accelerate the country's path towards sustainable, inclusive economic growth, job creation through increased investments. About 140 CEOs from leading South African businesses pledged to work with government in increasing GDP growth, creating jobs and promoting investor confidence. The collaboration between businesses and the government is essential in overcoming the current crisis and ensuring a sustainable future for all South Africans. Phase 2 will also strengthen the acceleration of the market reform needed for long-term energy security and infrastructure development for inclusive economic growth. Over the medium term, government is transforming its approach to public sector infrastructure by creating the conditions to attract private sector participation. Private sector resources were mobilized to address the energy crisis. As we are all aware that we have not had uninterrupted power supply since the 26th of March this year, which is over 250 days. Together with the private sector, we are now focusing on augmenting public sector capability and to provide new channels for financing. We are now focusing on addressing water infrastructure and related challenges, including freight logistics. Chairperson, we will continue to mobilize private sector resources to augment the capability of the public sector to fast-track provision of sustainable energy and critical infrastructure that will support inclusive growth. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. I'm now handing over to Honorable Swart to make a follow-up question.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and good afternoon, Deputy President. Thank you for your response, Deputy President. Given the repeated bailouts over the years for SOEs like Eskom and the others, which crowd out private investment, will the 7th administration government reconsider
the restructuring of all SOEs to include private management, expertise, or partial privatization? And if so, Deputy President, what is the timeline attached to that? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. As I said in my earlier response, we are now working with the private sector. As I said, 140 CEOs and their companies are involved, but we also are inviting foreign companies to also come and invest in South Africa. Of course, partnership will take different forms. In the main, we believe that public-private partnership is the way to go. And in certain instances, you will find that government continues to retain the majority of those entities, while the private sector retains the minority stake but bring the necessary resources. We probably try and avoid privatization where it's not necessary, because critical infrastructure must be provided by the state. And it's important that the state must remain seized with the provision of energy, water, infrastructure, etc. But we do agree that the private sector should be brought on board. Honourable Swart, the question whether they will assume critical responsibilities in those operations, I think it's a matter of operations. Once partnerships are made, entities then decide who chairs the board, who is the CEO, etc. And depending on your stake in an operation, you will play a particular role. So, and it will differ from entity to entity. But we know that there's nobody who will put large sums of money in an entity and they go home and sleep. Anybody who provides resources would like to see how resources are being used, so they may want to participate in the board, etc., etc. I think it's something that is normally done throughout the world, where there is a partnership, the partners share responsibilities. Obviously, the partner that has a major or the majority shares will always assume major responsibility in that setup. But we believe that public-private partnership will assist, particularly where the state does not have sufficient resources to ensure that these investments are attained and these infrastructure projects are implemented. Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We are now moving to the next follow-up question, which has been asked by Honourable Langisa Notata. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy President. I welcome the well-articulated responses by the Honourable Deputy President, but I still have a question for you, which is, what measures is the government putting in place to move with greater speed to develop a blended finance risk-sharing platform to expand to the current 70% of private infrastructure investment, and also build on the government's independent power producer program to increase the country's electricity capacity, also advance development and create employment opportunities for our people? Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Langisa. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Landisa. One of the things that we've promoted a lot recently is investment in energy. Wherever we go on trade missions, etc., we found that a lot of people are interested in investing in the energy space. So as we speak now, a lot of the private companies that are coming in are focusing on energy space. Of course, some are looking at infrastructure and now also water, but particularly energy. The good news, Honorable Landisa, is that there's a lot of improvement in energy now that a lot of resources are coming in, including through the private sector. The Minister of Electricity was telling me recently, a few days ago, that they have now surpassed their target of 70% energy availability factor. So that's good news that very soon we will see the days of load shedding completely behind us. And that is because we're now allowing more resources to come in into that space. So you will say that in the coming year, I'm sure when the minister reports on this matter, that we're doing quite well, we're meeting our targets. There's a lot of investments we need to do there, including in transmission. We need to invest in 14,000 kilometers of transmission, and that's going to require no less than 300 billion rands. But there is appetite in the private sector for that. So I'm convinced that we will achieve many of our objectives in ensuring that we keep the lights on and ensuring that we're not going back to those days when we had problems with our energy availability. It's all about resources being made available, and indeed the private sector has appetite to come into this space. Thank you very much, Honorable Landisa. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. I'm now moving to the third follow-up question, which has been asked by our Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. Over to you, Honorable Governor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the Honorable Deputy President again. Honorable Deputy President, in your responses to this question, you mentioned foreign direct investments. You mentioned also public-private partnerships with the aim of increasing the GDP of our country. Honorable Deputy President, townships and rural areas are still facing high levels of poverty, unemployment, inequality due to the persisting underdevelopment and limited economic activities in those areas. Due to a lack of employment in those areas, citizens are forced to move to city centers and live in informal settlements. Could you tell us what interventions is government putting in place to encourage private sector involvement in the rural areas by providing incentives, including, amongst others, tax incentives and reducing red tape to enable the establishment of factories in the rural areas and townships by the private sector, as this will also encourage foreign direct investment into those areas and will reduce the migration of people into the city centers? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. It is true that often investments are concentrated in metropolitan areas, particularly Gauteng, KZN, the Western Cape, but they have huge metropolis areas. And that's where investors are concentrated, and rural areas are forgotten. Now, we all know that investors, by their nature, they would go where there is better infrastructure. That's what investors do, where there's better roads, you have better reliable water supply, electricity, you have municipalities that are working, they want to register, etc., etc. So, so we need to ensure that as government, we do this in rural areas as well. I was in the Eastern Cape last weekend, and I was very impressed in the way the provincial government is intervening, for instance, to ensure that they expand the road network, of course, working with SANRAL. And you can see because of that, investors are now coming in the Eastern Cape because there are better roads, you can reach areas easily. So we need to do this in all rural areas. Our rural development strategy must ensure that we invest in this kind of infrastructure, a better road, supply of water that is reliable, energy, electricity, and also municipalities that are working. Because if the municipalities are dysfunctional, you are not able to manage investments that need to come into those areas. So, Honorable Governor, let me say that I think the days when rural areas are forgotten are now coming to an end because of our clear rural development strategy. We are now investing in rural areas, and therefore we will channel investment there as well. So sometimes they choose, but also we must actively as government say to investors, go to the rural areas of the Eastern Cape, KZN, and Mpumalanga, etc., Limpopo. But it must be clear that we are doing something, but to make sure that there is proper infrastructure in those areas. Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last question, follow-up question on this question would be asked by Honorable Harike.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, our economy is struggling now for many years to show meaningful growth in order to create employment and opportunities for our people. Some economists call it a slow strangle, and part of the slow strangle is red tape bureaucracies that put constraints on many sectors, some of it being the transport sector that's targeted on a daily basis and unfairly regulated. And does the government have plans to rearrange all the sectors that are hampered by these bureaucracies to make business for SMMEs easier? And if so, what plans or strategies are in place? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Harike. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Harike, for that follow-up. It is true that in many respects, development is hindered by bureaucracy. So Honorable Harike is absolutely right. What we have done even before the 7th administration, the President appointed a team to look at what we call cutting red tape in government. Set up a team, look at all our regulations, how long does it take to register businesses, to approve developments, etc. And through what we call in the presidency Operation Vulindlela, we then started looking at what we call reforms that are necessary to ensure that we particularly ensure the ease of doing business, not only for foreigners or people who are bringing foreign investments, but also for local businesses. But when we look at foreigners, for instance, because the world is competitive now, when foreigners want to invest in South Africa, they look at these issues of bureaucracy. They look at how long it takes to register your business, or if you are a foreigner, when you come in with your money, you also want to have a place to stay, schools for your children, etc. So if the environment is not friendly, you go elsewhere where the environment is friendly because, as I say, the world is competitive. People don't necessarily have to come to South Africa. We must make them to want to come to South Africa. So Honorable Gerike, through Operation Vulindlela, we are now busy with all these reforms to ensure that it shouldn't take long to respond to people who want to set up businesses. We must make our operations to have one-stop shops. So people, when they apply, they must not be sent to too many places before they can be responded to. So Operation Vulindlela is showing a lot of results now. There's a lot of improvement. And in fact, we have seen an improvement and increase in trade that is coming in our shores. There are many people who are now coming into South Africa to invest because we have made it easy for them to be able to do business in South Africa. Thank you very much, Honorable Gerike. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. That then concludes question number 8. We are now moving to the next question, which is question number 9. And that question has been asked by Honorable Dlamini of the African National Congress from Free State. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I would like to thank Honorable Dlamini for this important question. Intergovernmental debt is a challenge which hampers government efforts to deliver services, particularly at local government level. Government is implementing a number of measures to address the challenge of intergovernmental debt. In this regard, accounting officers are required to settle all contractual obligations and pay all monies owed, including intergovernmental claims, within 30 days of the submission of an invoice or on a specific period agreed with creditors or suppliers. As part of revenue initiatives, the National Treasury is strengthening the existing budget funding methodology to improve the budget process of municipalities. Furthermore, National Treasury is enforcing the implementation of Section 2161 of the Constitution by withholding the local government equitable share and other conditional grants for persistent municipal failure, including non-payment of bulk suppliers and third parties. Honorable Chair, in addition, the MFMA enforces a debt management process through a combination of the Municipal Debt relief conditions that require applicant municipalities to use, for instance, electricity and water as collection tools to enforce credit control. A similar support is intended by the Department of Water and Sanitation for water debt to water boards, water user associations, and municipalities that are water service authorities. Honorable Chairperson, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure chairs National Government Debt Forum. This forum is aimed at resolving the current challenges of non-payment of municipal accounts by organs of the state. The forum deals with challenges such as those relating to property ownership, incorrect tariff charges, huge interest charges that cannot be justified, as well as budget constraints. To complement efforts by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the Department of Cooperative Governance will be issuing communications to all Director Generals and heads of department, requesting them to provide plans to settle municipal debts. National Treasury will also consider top slicing budgets of departments that owe municipalities in order to settle debt. We will, Chairperson, also continue to implement these and other measures to eliminate the challenge of intergovernmental debt and to improve the delivery to all communities. In fact, the issue of top slicing is critical because it should not be allowed that government departments should default, whether against one another, but particularly to municipalities. Because some of our municipalities are not able to pay your water boards because national departments are not paying them. So this is a very important intervention. Thank you very much, Honorable Dlamini, and thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. That was a very important question, and how it has been responded to. Obviously, this House has a responsibility through the intergovernmental relations framework to follow up on this matter, which we will certainly do that, working, of course, with National Treasury in this regard, not only national, but also the provinces as well. Having said that, I will then allow Honorable Dlamini to make a follow-up question to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Dumela Mookamedi, o phetse ntate.
Ke phetse kgaitsedi.
Thank you. Ke a leboha ka hore o arabe potso ya ka bokgabane le boqhetseke bo bokanakana. Ka nnete o ya bonahala hore o ngwana wa Mankgaudise e motshwana, o petjuwe ka thari ya tshepe. Ntate wa Moafrika ka sebele sa hae. Hlompho boikokobetso di bopelletswe le wena. Indeed, in this country, the presidency we are led, Honorable Chair. I don't have a follow-up question. Thank you very much.
That's a nice way of closing the year, honorable members. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. Yeah. Okay, she doesn't have the follow-up questions, and which will then take us to the next follow-up question, which has been asked by Honorable Makesini.
Thank you, Deputy
Honorable
President.
Feni, please don't intimidate.
I cannot, Chair, not today. Thank you, DP.
South Africans generally are not satisfied with the quality of service rendered by the government, as there have been several issues that experienced by our communities, such as a poor waste management, road infrastructure, and adequate provision of water. And the factors that contributed to that, the issues of poor service delivery, the lack of leadership in the municipality that are displayed by the government in some of the municipality, and the corruption. In light of that, what specific measure will you put in place to ensure that municipalities are capacitated to meet their financial obligation without compromising service delivery, and the time frame in that regard, if you can give us, DP? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Makesin. Indeed, one of the problems that make people not to be satisfied with service deliveries is when those who are supposed to provide services are not doing it. So you're quite right. So as I said when I was answering Honorable Dlamini, that we are taking measures to ensure that we enforce compliance. For instance, the PFMA itself does force the accounting officers to be able to pay those who provide services, and it's within 30 days. Because sometimes people will say, we are not providing this service because we have not been paid. So it is by law that the accounting officers know that when somebody has provided a service, they need to be paid, and paid within 30 days. It could be earlier. In fact, it's better if it's earlier, but no later than 30 days. So National Treasury need to make sure that at provincial level, these regulations are enforced, because then it will promote implementation. Because as I said, often when people are given a job to upgrade a road, whatever, and then you find that the road is not complete and the work is not done, and then they claim that is because they've not been paid. So we are making sure that that, in fact, should happen, both by the PFMA and the FMA as well in local government, is to ensure that we enforce compliance so that we can be able to deliver services on time. Once we start delivering services on time, you will see improvements, and then, of course, monitoring. We have a minister responsible now for monitoring in government, and that monitoring is not just for national government, but also for provincial and local government. There's nothing that is better than monitoring, because monitoring makes you see where the problems are, and then you are able to intervene on time. But also recently, when I was appointed by the president to do this work, one of the things he asked me to do is to ensure that I look at this issue of service delivery. So I am currently visiting a number of areas just to see for myself what are the problems and how do we intervene. We have already been to almost all the provinces with my team. And as we go there, we intervene, we work with premiers, MECs, mayors, and intervene on the spot. We have to get the issue of service delivery right. But thank you very much for the question, Honorable Makesin. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President, for the response. We are now moving to the third follow-up, which has been asked by Honorable Van den Berg.
Chair, Deputy President, the question on the table is failing service delivery due to growing intergovernmental debt and the mechanisms to address this major stumbling block. Mechanisms like budget reforms, expenditure management, revenue enhancements, economic growth initiatives, fiscal rules, to name but a few. But these mechanisms can also make the problem even worse, as their activation adds to more financial burdens to the state. Business would advocate that you cannot throw good money towards bad money, and this may well be the case happening. The root cause of intergovernmental debt may well start with a culture of non-payment of municipal accounts by government and the public, made worse with promises of unachievable projects by unscrupulous politicians seeking re-election. Deputy Minister, will the decisive voice from the 2024 elections move you now towards the shared economic policies of the GNU by seeking a less burdened state, doing the necessary intergovernmental debt swaps, and spending less tax money on arbitrary efforts working towards the wrong direction? I thank you.
The question has been posed to the Deputy President. I think it's a slippery of a tongue, and we'll accordingly request the Deputy President to respond to the question that has been asked by Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable van den Berg. Yes, indeed, policies in themselves and laws don't resolve the problems automatically. You need to have warm bodies that implement. So one of the things we are doing is to ensure that we have the right people at an implementation level. You have the right leaders, right officials to be able to make sure that the resources that are made available are put to good use. There's no corruption and there's monitoring and so on. Even the issue of debt swaps, we are looking at it at the moment. But I think it's important that, yes, as we enforce these measures, we shouldn't make things worse, particularly for municipalities. Some of them don't provide good services because they don't have an economic base. So when the Minister of Local Government with the Minister of Finance look at such municipalities, it can't be that, through the division of revenue, you just don't fund those municipalities because they'll need to be funded. And I know in this house, there are many of you who have been mayors. You understand these challenges, that it must not always be assumed that municipalities are cash flushed. Because the problem of municipalities starts when there's non-payment, but not just by communities, but also businesses, and then government departments and so on. So I agree with you that our measures must also always be calculated to ensure that they don't come with negative effects when you implement them, to make sure that we can improve service delivery, because at the end of the day, that's what we want to achieve: efficient service delivery. Community members must pay for services, businesses must pay for services, government must pay for services, and government must pay municipalities, particularly national departments, and then municipalities must pay your water boards, ESCOM, and so on and so on. Then we will improve the overall situation of service delivery, because all elements will operate in sync. And that's what we want to see happening. But thank you very much for the question. Honorable Vandenberg. Thank you, Chairperson.
Siyabonga Sihlalo Mongameli. Umbuzo olandelayo uvela kudokotela umhlonisha uSkir Kocha.
Deputy President, most local governments cannot rely on gifts of valuable diamonds to help them fund their activities. We need to help them by ensuring they collect the monies due to them. Will you commit to releasing a report, if not to Parliament, at least then to Cabinet, detailing the national government departments and entities who are not paying municipal accounts in the effort to get them into the habit of paying their dues? Thank you, Chairperson.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa. Sekela Mongameli.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Skirkochel. I hope I pronounce it well. No, it shouldn't be a problem, but the Auditor General does that already. As you might be aware that the audits are made public. So recently the Auditor General briefed Cabinet about the situation, national government, provincial government, and municipalities. So we already have data about which municipalities are not doing well, but we also have data on which departments are not paying municipalities. That information is available. And I know that the Auditor General does from time to time also come and address the NCOP and the National Assembly. But if that information is available, as I say, it shouldn't be a problem to be made available to honorable members, because I think the more you know who are the culprits, the better for you to do oversight. So I think that's important. I will also ensure that that is done, but the information is already available. Thank you very much, Honorable Skier Kochel. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the responses, Deputy President. We are now moving to question number 10, which has been asked by Honorable Peter from UDM. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me start by appreciating the question by Honorable Peter. Honorable Chairperson, on the 20th of November this year, I had an opportunity to attend the extraordinary SADC summit held in Zimbabwe on behalf of President Ramaphosa. The summit was convened precisely to discuss how best we can respond to the current challenges in the DRC, as well as recent violence after the elections in Mozambique. I can also report that the summit noted the outcomes of the elections in Botswana and Madagascar. Equally, the summit appreciated that there were upcoming elections in Namibia, which we now all know they were free and fair. And in this regard, we would like to congratulate the people of Namibia. Honorable Chairperson, we are not aware of any human rights violations by the governments of Zimbabwe and Mozambique. We, through our diplomatic engagement and as part of SADC, continue to engage with our sister countries on the variety of issues, including socio-economic development and broader management. We know too well that lack of stability in SADC region has an impact on the South African economy. Hence, through our diplomatic channel, we are engaging with the people of Mozambique to find a lasting solution to the current situation as a result of the recent election. Honorable Chairperson, we continue to call for calm and utmost restraints while urging all political parties and their supporters to allow due process to be completed in the overall supreme interest of stability in Mozambique. As a member of SADC, South Africa will further support all initiatives that are aimed at resolving conflicts, mediation, and promoting peace, stability, and good governance is what we continue to do in the region. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. I'm now inviting Honorable Peter to make a follow-up question to the Deputy President.
Mangibulise sihlalo wendlu othandekayo. Waze wamuhle President, ngiyabonga. Thank you, President. Thank you, Deputy President. Siyafunda. South Africa has taken many strides to promote human rights and maintain peace in various countries across the African continent. The country has spent billions of rands through the Renaissance Fund and other aid from the government. Recently, the Minister of Finance proposed an allocation of 2.1 billion to the Department of Defense to cover expenses related to the employment of the SADF personnel in Democratic Republic of Congo. What factors were considered behind the 2.1 billion allocation to the DRC, Honorable Deputy President? Are there any economic benefits to the South African government from these massive donations to countries like DRC because of foreign policy engagement should be grounded within the context of the fiscal consolidation? I thank you, President. Nkosi.
Enkosi tata, Deputy President, umbuza omusha lona ophakanyiswe umhlonishwa, kepha-ke ngizodlulisela kuwe uma uthanda ukuphendula ungawuphendula, kodwa-ke uma unganayo impendulo ungasithumelela yona. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Zoshaya kancane nje. Babita kancane nje. Ukuthi, you know, it's very difficult to put a price to peace. Very difficult. Kodwa ke le imali okhuluma ngazo khumbula ukuthi sinamasotsha lapha on the ground. Sineyimoto zamasotsha, kumele badle, banbe nezibhamu, zonke lezi zinto. Ngiyathemba ke ukuthi uma ungaya ku Minister of Finance uyobheka ukuthi i2 billion yenziwa yini uzothola zona lezi zinto. And ungathola futhi bathe futhi ayinelisekanga. Kodwa ke into esingayi as chairperson says singayiphendula mase ufuna yonke detail sibhale sithumele. Kodwa i-benefit for us ukuthi uma kunezimpi la e-Africa in our continent iyas affecta nathi siwumzansi uma kulwiwa. And remember that we have South African companies already operating in the DRC in very serious economic, in mining and so on. There are products that come from them to us, vice versa. And through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we want good and a seamless economic development in the continent. Conflicts and wars affect that. And therefore, when we take this decision that we take to intervene and support initiatives to end the wars, because we want to benefit ourselves and the continent. Into esifuna ukuyenza leyo. Kodwa ngiyabonga ke ukuthi ubuze noma ke umbuzo omusha singawuphendula ngenye indlela, and as the chair have indicated. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We are now moving to the second follow-up question, which is asked by DA through Honorable PLENARY.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Welcome back to the House, Deputy President. Deputy President, as widely publicized, will the Deputy President publicly condemn the ongoing violence of civil liberties, including freedom of speech, currently occurring in Zimbabwe and Mozambique? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable PLENARY. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable PLENARY. As I said earlier in my answer to the question, I was in Harare on the 20th of November last month, where we had a very good meeting. And the reason, as I said, was to look at the conflict in the DRC. In the same meeting, the president of Mozambique also gave a report on the situation in Mozambique. So we looked at DRC, Mozambique. The overriding factor as we look at this conflict is to allow space for people to enjoy human rights, to be able to have free, fair elections. And to the extent that we have not ourselves received official complaints in SADC, we will not rush to condemn anybody. Normally, the approach that we take is we send missions in, we get facts, and we are able to then respond accordingly. For instance, if you look currently in the Eastern DRC, there are allegations that Rwanda forces are assisting M23 to destabilize the area. And there were people who were saying to me when I was in Zimbabwe, they said, Deputy President, please condemn Rwanda for that. And I said, no, we don't work that way. Let me look at the facts first and so on, because you don't want to condemn and you wake up the next day and the president of the other country say, but why are you condemning us? Because we are not involved in that. So these things want you to get the real facts first. But for instance, Angola has now initiated a process to resolve conflict between Rwanda and the DRC, which is called the Luanda process. So those processes help a lot beyond condemning, because sometimes when you condemn people, they harden their attitude. But when you engage them, they open up and they accept a mediation, and we are able to resolve the problem. So if you ask me, Honorable PLENARY, am I willing to ensure that the people of Zimbabwe enjoy equal human rights, they have election in an environment that is free and peaceful as we go on into the future? My answer is yes, I'll work hard to support that. But we have to engage the leaders of these countries. When you just rush to condemn, they close their doors and you are not able to resolve issues. So let me engage them. Thank you very much, Honorable PLENARY. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The next follow-up question is from Honorable Keza, who has joined us through the virtual platform. And accordingly, I would request him to switch on her microphone as well as her video to ask the Deputy President the follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Speaker, Chairperson. Deputy President, given the Southern African Development Community that has not publicly condemned human rights abuses against post-elections protesters in Mozambique, and that South Africa's policy of constructive engagement or quiet diplomacy towards the crisis in Zimbabwe and Mozambique has been a source of concern. What steps have you taken to establish South Africa's credibility or reputation as a beacon of support for human rights values? And to what extent has the presence of South Africa contributed to a lasting solution in Mozambique? Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Keza. Honorable Deputy President, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I had somebody murmuring and said, "Ngata so Keza lawyer." But must pendule, nevertheless. Yes, let me put it this way, Honorable Chairperson, that we do condemn violence wherever it takes place. But like I was answering the last questions, we shouldn't rush to condemn specific people or specific leaders. That doesn't mean we tolerate violence. And also protest must be allowed as long as it's peaceful. If protest is not peaceful, it has to be condemned. And therefore, Honorable Keza, what's happening in Mozambique is something that is a matter of concern to us. I did say earlier that when we were having the extraordinary SADC summit on the 20th, President Nyosi came to brief us of what's happening. And I like the way he approached the issue. He said to us, look, I'm the outgoing president. I'm about to leave, but I'm going to meet with all the contestants so that we can address this issue. He didn't rush to say, no, I condemn so and so. He did say, I'm going to meet all of them, including the leaders of Renamo. And I know that he has since done so, to say to them as leaders, we have had elections. If you have issues, wait for the due process. Because remember, the protests in Mozambique started even before the counting was concluded. So I said, wait for the due process. And if you do have grievances, then raise them in the process that have been outlined by the Electoral Commission. So I would like to say, Honorable Keza, let's push everybody in that direction where they engage and they address issues together, where we as South Africa have been continuing to play mediation. We are doing it currently in South Sudan. And many of you will attest that you haven't seen conflict for a while now in South Sudan since we have intervened. They are engaging, they are planning to have election as well. The president did go to the DRC to engage with them. So we are going to continue to do so. And we will also join the Luanda process to ensure that there is peace between the DRC and Rwanda as well, particularly what's happening in the Eastern DRC. But thank you very much for the question. Honorable Keza will continue to work for peace, not only in the continent, but throughout the world. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. We are now moving to the last follow-up question on the very same question, which has been asked by ANC through Honorable Medupi. Over to you.
Ke a leboga modulasetilo, ke dumedise motlotlegi Motlatsatautona ya naga. Honorable Deputy President, the SADC region has been relatively politically stable with the last civil wars that ended in early 2000s. There haven't been any systematic or nationwide conflict, even though there has been sporadic conflicts which resulted in fatalities across the SADC region. However, the SADC region has not been able to resolve latent ongoing conflicts in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Honorable Chair, to a larger extent, the Deputy President has responded to the question that I may want to ask. Now, the question that I will just change how I wanted the question to how I posed my question. Deputy President, does South Africa use its historical ties with the countries in the region to rally them not only to strengthen peace and security, but also to strengthen their state capabilities and democratic institutions to ensure peace and security in the region, while also preventing post-electoral disputes and conflicts that create the regional instability? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Mudupi. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Mudupi. Yes, South Africa is very keen to see stability in the continent. And that's why we have been involved in many missions across the continent. You know that we have bilateral relations with many countries in the continent and not only in SADC. But it's important that as a country that has come through conflict ourselves and the experience that we have in resolving conflict through negotiation, that we use that experience to benefit the continent. And really that's what we are doing to be able to assist others. So bilateral mechanisms are very important because you also don't just, as you say, Honorable Midupi, we're not just looking at issues of peace, we're also looking at issues of development. How can we benefit as the region and the continent on issues of trade? Many of you would have been aware that there is currently, or the past day or so, state visit by Nigeria, where we're discussing issues of mutual benefit through the Binational Commission. We're expecting Angola next week. And where there are elections, South Africa is part of the observer missions. So we're quite involved in the continent because a stable continent is important for South Africa. It's important that we must get involved and we must make sure that we use our experience of negotiations to assist the continent to achieve peace and therefore to be stable and have proper development. As I said, the meeting I attended on the 20th, it was an extraordinary one. It was an extraordinary summit, but we have ongoing engagement through the organ on politics of SADC, the AU Security Council, and all these structures are ensuring that we work with others to stabilize the continent. We want to make sure that as South Africa, we're quite active in the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that agreement should be implemented to ensure that the development of the continent becomes a success. So I thank you for the question, Honorable Midupi, and we are going to continue to be very engaged in the continent to ensure that it succeeds. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We're now proceeding to question 11, which has been posed by EFF, Honorable Makesini, to the Deputy President. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The question asked by Honorable Makesini has been raised a number of times, not only by members of this House, but also in the National Assembly. As I said on previous occasions, the land question constitutes a critical part of the task of our government as it seeks to address historical injustices. Therefore, accelerating land reform remains the key or a key priority of this government. To date, our interventions are focused on expediting the process of land claims for agricultural production to subsequently improve food security. Minister Mzwanele Noncho recently handed over title deeds to the community of Rakwadu in Limpopo, following the successful processing of their land claim by the Commission on Restitution on Land Rights. As part of ensuring that there is significant increase in agricultural production and improved food security, government continues to strengthen post-settlement support to those whose claims have already been settled to utilize the land productively. Chairperson, to this end, Cabinet has approved the National Policy on Comprehensive Producer Support and Development. The policy provides for the different categories of farmers and the type of support to be provided to these farmers, especially those from disadvantaged communities, including women, youth, and persons with disabilities who are involved in agricultural production. Honorable Chairperson, we will not rest until we have dealt with these historical injustices. And as I said earlier, the Minister of Land has been moving around the country. I think he has also been to Limpopo, not just Mpumalanga. As he was informing me yesterday that vast amounts of tractors of land have been released to communities. And we must do what we have always said we will do, as I was engaging with him, that we give them support to utilize the land productively. Because that's always the issue we come across, that yes, you have given us land, but we don't have all the resources we need to be able to till the land, to utilize the land productively. So together with the Minister of Agriculture as well, we are looking into that, that people must be assisted to utilize the land productively. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Marquesin.
Thank you, Deputy President. Do you have a follow-up question, Honorable Marquesini?
Thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, Deputy President, it's not a first time. As long as abantu bengekafumani into yomhlaba sizokwazi uthula noba sakubuza iyabe isiqengeleko. The issue esibuza kakhulu issue transparency. Umuntu ohlala ongana access to internet aya ku department ye land affairs kuthiwa makajenge ku internet ukuba advertisement zamaplus ziphuma nini. If ngumuntu uhlala eHofstad akasebenzi akana access internet issue transparency ne opportunities ziyabadlula. So into sicela into transparency because ayikho accessible because abantu bethu bayisokola indaba yedata. Ndiyabulela.
Thank you, Honorable Marquesini. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Marquesin, ndivumelana nawe. Many of our people in rural areas don't have those facilities. We have tried recently to try and reach out to rural areas, but we have not penetrated the rural areas adequately. So it's true that if information can only be retrieved on the internet, there are many who will be left behind. There will be many who will be disadvantaged. So ndivumelana nawe ukuba masilungise lento. I'll discuss with the relevant ministers and find other ways that are easier for rural people to be able to check where they can be able to access information other than in the internet. Thank you for that question. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, DP. I'm now moving to Honorable Sitole from the African National Congress. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President Ihlikani.
Aye.
Honorable Deputy President, access to affordable finance, land infrastructure, and lack of cultural are some of the factors constraining Black producers from participating in mainstream's agriculture market to benefit from the value chain and changing the racial skewed ownership of fertile land in the country. My question is, Honorable President, is what progress is government and institutions such as Land Bank South Africa and the Industrial Development Corporation making in the implementation of the blended finance scheme to fast-track land reform and expand opportunities for the commercialization of Black producers to put greater agency in the country's land reform program, while also unlocking the economic potential of emerging farmers and rural dwellers? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stole. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Stole, we've been talking a lot as well about the blended finance scheme. So thank you very much for raising this once again, because one of the challenges is to make sure that when people are afforded finance by government departments like your agriculture and rural development, we must focus on sustainability, which is how do we make them to run these farms so productively that they can be able going forward also to access commercial banks. Because, we don't want them to always wait for government to give them grants or also only rely on the land and agricultural development bank, but also beyond that. So what we are doing now with the ministers is to ensure that there is sustainability when we assist people who have to run farms productively, that they can access funding beyond just the agricultural and land bank. we will also try to look at facilities that are available in the BRICS Bank, what is called the New Development Bank, as well, to assist these farmers to be able to run their farmers productively and be successful. So that's something that we are working on with the ministers. You know that the agriculture and land reform has now been separated into two ministries. So I have to straddle between two ministers now. But sometimes to make life easy, I meet them at the same time because these responsibilities really flows from one to the other. But we agree with you that let's make sure that as we fund these farmers with our blended finance schemes, we make it sustainable and that they access other resources from commercial banks. It won't be easy with commercial banks. We know that it's not easy to get funding there, but we're going to keep trying. Arkansas Mananstol. Thank you, Chairperson.
Councillor Shunene, Deputy President. We are now moving on to Honorable Mokoena to ask the follow-up question.
Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you for outlining the efforts and steps so well. I almost didn't have a question for you, but I actually now do. No, I had to think about it and think of a question. It's very important. Deputy Chairperson, it might be something that you might not be able to answer today, but what I would like to request from your office.
Why are you asking him then?
Sorry,
if you
Chairperson.
don't have the follow-up, please don't ask something that he must go and think through. You can do that in writing,
Okay.
honorable member, and forward it to him. He will then respond accordingly. We'll forward. the
Okay, let me
response to you.
rephrase my question,
Okay.
Chairperson. We would like to know the types of post-claim support that has been given, in particularly to females and people living with disabilities. I have a exceptional interest in provinces like Limpopo, KZN, and Free State. Would you be able to tell us those? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That again, it's a new question that has been posed. As I've indicated earlier on, if the Deputy President is not at liberty to give you response to that because there's stats, there's numbers that is involved as well. So he may not, presuming that he may not at this point in time respond to that question, but I'll hand over to him. If he's unable, he will do that in writing. Okay, over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Indeed, questions that requires a lot of stats is better when you give us in advance so that we do proper research so that we don't mislead you. So in the new year, I'm going to give you a lot of information on that because it's a lot of information that you need about post-settlement support. I did say that in the last question when I answered it that, you know, it's different scales in different provinces. Some provinces more than 150,000 hectares of land has been given, others 25,000. So we'll collate them so that you have a clear sense of where we are. We're making good progress now, as I said earlier, and the minister gives me a report every time. 200,000 in Mpumalanga, 500,000 in Limpopo. We will collate that and then give it to you once you have rested for the holidays when you come back in the new year. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Deputy President. As I've alluded earlier on, Honorable Mkwena, if you could just put that question into a question paper for a written response, we'll appreciate that and we'll accordingly forward it to the Deputy President for responses. Thank you very much. I'm now moving to the last question for follow-up, which will then be asked by DA through Honorable Badenhorst.
Right, dear Deputy President.
Yes, I
Deputy
know you're on my
President.
left.
So a study in Limpopo province found that only 33% of emerging farmers under the land restitution program participated in local agricultural markets who are supplying food to their communities. Factors such as inadequate post-settlement support, insufficient training, and limited access to credit and market information hindered their ability to engage effectively in commercial agriculture. In fact, Deputy President, between 2019 and 2023, 90% of land reform farms was regarded as failures nationally, whilst during the same period, according to the Western Cape Department of Agriculture's Land Reform Evaluation Report, approximately 83% of land reform farmers who received post-settlement support considered themselves successful agribusinesses in the DA-run Western Cape. Would you not agree, Mr. President, Deputy President, that the time has come to acknowledge that the ANC's land restitution programs have failed the very people it's intended to benefit? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I will be visiting the Western Cape next year to see what's happening there. I do hope that Honorable Badenhorst is not claiming easy victories. Yeah, you know, Amilcar Cabral said, let's not claim easy victories. So yes, the question you are answering is that the policy has been a failure. The policy is not a failure. We have acknowledged in many platforms, myself, the President, that our land reform process took off slowly because of many challenges. We are currently resolving a lot of those problems. You know, some of the problems are disputes within families. You go into an area, you try and give land to communities and disputes. In some provinces, disputes between communities and traditional leaders. So there are real issues on the ground. You can't just walk in and say, no, we are now handing over this piece of land and it's done. But secondly, as you said, there's issue of support. Support for people who then are recipients of land to be able to till the land, to be able to make it productive. We are now focusing on that too. But it's important that we acknowledge that there is movement ahead. And when we give you the amount of land that has been now been given to people through restitutions and so on, it's really vast amounts of land. But we are worried about the land being used to be used productively. And it's something that we are focusing on now with the relevant ministers that are busy with this. So we're going to see the pace picking up as we resolved a lot of these problems. So it's not failure that this policy is failing, is that there are a lot of challenges that some we had not anticipated before that we have now been confronted with. I've been to areas where I've seen a lot of successes. Chairperson in Mpumalanga, when I visited there, I was really amazed about the progress that's taking place. You recall when I came there. So there are success stories in many parts of our country we should acknowledge whilst dealing with areas where there are challenges that we are resolving. But thank you very much for reminding us that the issue of land remains critical for our country. This is one of the biggest issues that we have to resolve and resolve sooner. Thank you, Honorable Badenos. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. We have now come to the last question of the day, which is question number 20, that has been asked by African National Congress through Honorable Modise. Over to you, Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, my note says question 12, but I'm sure it is the one.
Yes, it is question 12.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. The question by Honorable Modise on strengthening foreign missions to encourage investment is very important. Foreign missions play an important role in attracting investments and support local businesses in understanding the value of foreign direct investments and integral components of South Africa's economic strategy. Equally, our foreign missions are actively engaged in economic diplomacy, which is in line with the priorities of the Government of National Unity. This commitment focuses on inclusive growth and job creation, which are central to their efforts. This work is done through collaboration between the Department of International Relations and Cooperation and the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. In addition, through Brand SA, we promote the country as a whole to ensure that South Africa attracts and promotes investment opportunities in the provinces and cities, both urban and rural. By utilizing market and economic intelligence, South African missions abroad are dedicated to connecting with potential investors, garnering expertise and capacity to support our crucial sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. Export and investment initiatives undertaken by our missions abroad underscores the vital role that economic diplomacy plays in advancing our national interests. Honorable Chairperson, my most practical experience of how missions are promoting and attracting investment was during my recent visit to Ireland and the United Kingdom of Great Britain. I was deeply impressed about how the two missions identified critical sectors of the economy that can promote trade within our country and these two countries. Their efforts to encourage local businesses to collaborate with international investors create a wealth of investment opportunities within South Africa, which is a promising sign for our economic future. Through these initiatives, our foreign missions are better placed to market our country as an investment destination with a potential to grow the economy for the betterment of all South Africans. In fact, when we were on this working visit in the UK, through our mission there, we're able to have more than 20 meetings with investors, and many of whom were convinced that they must come and invest here. Similarly, in Ireland as well, in Dublin, many people who are saying we are coming to South Africa to invest. We realized that in the main, people wanted to understand what is this GNU, is South Africa stable? And once we have explained to them, they were really convinced that South Africa is indeed an investment destination for them. So we will be receiving many of them, particularly next year as we will be hosting the G20 here in South Africa. Thank you very much, Honorable Modise, for the question. Thank you, Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for a follow-up question. Honorable Modise.
No, thank you so much, Chair, and good afternoon to the Deputy President, and also good afternoon to our special delegates or guests, Ms. T. Notabek, Ndlovu up there. Hello. Yeah. Chair, I'm sure the chief whip will agree with me when I say the office of the Deputy President is not fair. They've summarized in their responses to questions, they summarize even follow-up. And a follow-up is just a mere follow-up because you have to ask a follow-up. Because if you were listening to DP responding to the question of Honorable Governor, it's exactly what I wanted to ask. And he already spoken about the foreign direct investment, the challenges that are faced by other provinces except Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. So ngiyabonga, Deputy Chair. Bonga kakhulu.
I was just about to stop you and ask you, can you ask your question, Honorable Modise? Thank you very much. You don't have a follow-up question. We appreciate that. The next follow-up question shall be asked by Honorable Billy.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to the Deputy President. It is quite clear that foreign direct investments and the foreign missions play a critical role in ensuring that there is fair interest to invest in the country, but more importantly for the provinces, Deputy President. Now, in your efforts to encourage these investments, not just in provinces, but also in South Africa, and given the statement by the US President-elect Donald Trump regarding the potential implications for the BRICS nations establishing an alternative currency to the US dollar, has the South African government checked the potential economic impact of such a move on foreign direct investment in provinces that you speak about, Deputy President, and in the country, particularly from the US, and how this might influence the country's strategy in engaging with BRICS partners to balance domestic economic priorities with international partners, particularly on what you've raised, the issue of provinces and the mission's role in ensuring that there is an interest to invest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Billy. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Billy. The issue of investments, particularly foreign investment, is something that you work on all the time. You know, recently, before the elections in the US, you will recall that there was a team of ministers that went to the US. Minister Pakstau and others, I can't remember who was there. I think it's Lamola, Minister Lamola, and said the president himself was at UNGA, engaging with the current administration and you know, making sure that we can sleep well, knowing that the GNU, as we move forward, ALGOA is still fine. And suddenly, we are now in a situation where the people we're talking to will not be there. That's why I say you have to continue to engage. But the good thing is that as soon as the results were announced in the US, the president took a phone and phoned President Trump and congratulated him. and he appreciated that. You know, he phoned him directly, not through secretaries, directly on his cell phone. Direct. No, it was him. And they had a good chat. I'm not at liberty to reveal discussion between two presidents. All I can say that they had a good discussion, and looking forward to work with each other. You'll remember that we are hosting G20 next year. In fact, we've just taken over on the 1st from Brazil. So the US, as you know, is part of the G20. So it's likely that President Trump will be coming too. So we're hoping that we will be able to manage our relationship with the new government under the leadership of President Trump, who will obviously be sworn in January next year. And it's something that we are doing in all countries. I visited Botswana for the inauguration of President Duma Boko, and we are looking forward to working with them. Already we agreed to resolve some challenges on our exports to Botswana. He raised it with me and said, look, let's resolve this issue. So you have to continue to work for this. It's not like we have an agreement, it's done, things will flow all the time. So I'm sure very soon there will be another mission to the US from our government to go and ensure that we engage again on issues of AGOA and others. But we are looking forward to working with President Trump and the team from the US. Thank you very much for that question, Honorable Billy. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. I'm now moving to the third follow-up question to be asked by Honorable Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Before I ask my question, Chairperson, can I just mention that I'm wearing my beautiful green suit and tie today as a tribute to the people of Disseldorp, Ward 9, Oudtshoorn Municipality, who yesterday in the by-election overwhelmingly put their support behind the Patriotic Alliance to win that ward, as proof that we are destined to take over the Western Cape. Thank you, Chairperson. According to a book called Defining a South Africa Foreign Policy for the 2020s, authored by David Bradlow, University of Victoria, Elizabeth Sidiropoulos from South African Institute of International Affairs, and Wanda Mpongosi of the University of South Africa, and I quote, "Today, while the country still carries weight, its international stature has declined," close quote. Then it also says, open quote, "There are many domestic and international reasons for this decline," close quote. The book goes on to say, open quote, "The global situation, of course, has not helped," close quote. Now my question, Honorable Deputy President, what can the country do to create an international regime that assists us getting back to where we have been post in 1994? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Farmer. Over to you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Farmer. What can we do to get back to where we were? We have decided that the first important thing, priority number one, should be to grow the economy and grow it faster. Now, if you have to grow the economy, you must get your infrastructure right, your ports, your rail lines, roads, I have already said that we have now gotten electricity supply right. Energy availability factor is now beyond 70%. We are fixing the dams, making sure that we have adequate water supply. But one of the important things, Honorable Farmer, is also to train our people, particularly the young people. We need a skills revolution, because we can have all these plans that we want to do, but if we don't have the skills, we're not going to achieve, to attain the level of growth that we have had in the past. Honorable members will recall that around 2004 to 2006, that period we were growing probably at around 5% of GDP. We want to go back to those levels, and I'm sure that's what Honorable Farmer is saying. How do we get back there? Let's get our infrastructure right. We get the infrastructure right, including in rural areas, we will increase the level of economic activity that will allow us to absorb people into employment. And as I said, particularly young people. There are programs that we're looking at even at the presidency that include the Youth Employment Service and others. They are going to help us a lot. Some of these programs, they've already absorbed almost 1 million young people who have been absorbed, and they have access to opportunities to become entrepreneurs. There's a national youth service that we were talking about yesterday that we're going to be rolling out together with the South African National Defence Force. Let's get people into jobs. And we can only do so in a growing economy. So, Honorable Farmer, that's the biggest priority for us. But the second thing is that we need to ensure that people can afford the cost of living, the goods that are being sold there. Cost of living is quite high. We should do everything in our power to ensure that we address that. And of course, have a state that is capable, efficient, and has the right people to be able to implement our program. If we do that, we'll get there even faster. Thank you very much, Honorable Farmer. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Deputy President. We are now moving to the last follow-up question of the day, which shall be asked virtually by Honorable Chiram Bongase. Can we request you, Honorable Member, to switch on your camera as well as your microphone? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to the Deputy President. In terms of Gauteng Special Economic Zones, which are also a tool of attracting foreign direct investment, particularly the Tshwane Automotive Zone, where investments by private partners such as Ford stood at 5.6 billion by the end of the 2023-2024 financial year. The main challenge, however, is that despite this significant investment, the total number of people employed by the SEZ at the end of the financial year was only 3,244, in contrast to a Gauteng province with over 2 million unemployed people. Foreign direct investments are expected to bolster job creation, but the number of jobs created remains grossly insufficient. We believe this stems from a lack of efficient oversight and regulatory measures from the state that dictate output and direction. What are the government's requirements regarding the minimum number of jobs that must be created through such investments? And what control measures has government put in place regarding foreign missions to ensure that industries have domestic dominance and not overtaken by foreign countries? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chirwa. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Chirwa. It is true that We do get a lot of foreign direct investments in provinces like Gauteng, your metropolitan areas. But as you say, Honorable Chira, that does not always translate to sufficient jobs. And that's what we need to address, because we have to create jobs. In many of these areas, if you look at Gauteng, KZN, they do have the special economic zones, SEZs. I know a few of them. In KZN, next to the airport, there's an SEZ, same as Gauteng. There are others that Gauteng is going to be reviving, particularly to attract businesses in there, because businesses get special benefits in the SEZs. So the more we have SEZs, the more we're going to be able to attract more investments, more businesses, but also ensure that we can employ many people. I was talking to Minister Tau recently that in areas in Gauteng like Hammanskraal, there's an area there called Babelegi. It used to be like some kind of SEZ that I think we must look at reviving it to be able to attract businesses there. I know they have other SEZ next to the airports. But generally, to come back to your questions, yes, we will make sure that when there are investments, those investments must translate into growing the economy that creates jobs. We must not have a situation where people talk about jobless growth. So it's an important thing that when we talk about the numbers of the economy that is growing, that must be accompanied by people getting employment. The good thing is that the signs now show that our economy is now moving on the positive. Stats SA project that we will probably go towards 1% of growth. They initially projected 0.9. So it's positive, but we must ensure that we invest a lot in those sectors that can absorb employment. And that's what we are going to do. But thank you very much, Honorable Chira, for the question. I think it's something that is very important. We have to get the issue of jobs right, and growing our economy is priority number one. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. We have come to the end of the questions. I would like to thank you, Deputy President, for availing yourself to answer questions. You may step down and take your seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I wish everybody well for the festive season. I was reminded, Chairperson, that in fact today is a very important day. This is the day that President Mandela passed on 11 years ago. Yes, but otherwise, let's all get some rest. Next year is going to be very busy.
I'm going to bring you all some pictures.
Thank you, honorable members. You may take your seats. Honorable members hailing all the way from the province of Limpopo. We have an honor today to be joined by Miss Teen 2024, Waterberg District, Umphile Ndlovu. She's in the gallery. If I may ask her to stand up and wave to the members, can we give her a round of applause? Thank you very much, Umphile, for joining us, and we wish you well in your reign as Miss Teen Waterberg District, and we wish you a safe, joyous, festive season as we are heading for festive season holidays. Thank you very much. Having said that, honorable members, once again, I take this opportunity to thank the Deputy President, who's been accompanied by his entourage of officials. Thank you very much for coming along with the Deputy President, as well as our honorable member, Siweia, for being part of this sitting. We also take this opportunity to thank honorable members for being part of this sitting and those that have joined us on virtual platform, as well as our special delegates on the virtual platform. Of course, we also have SALGA representatives who have availed themselves to be part of this sitting. Having said that, honorable members, that concludes the business of the day. Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.